you might not know about the people at Harvesting History Heirlooms is that we've been together for 16 years. And during that time, we've worked together as a team on a research project that included more than 100 pots where we planted 3 times a year so that we would gain an expertise in container gardening and pot gardening. Well, today you're going to see a little bit of the prejudice that we've generated because we've done more than 4,200 plantings over 16 years. And that prejudice is, we think calla lilies should be planted in pots, not in the ground, in pots. Even in the areas where they are hardy, which would be some in zone 8, zone 9, zone 10, and zone 11. Calla lilies belong in pots. They do much better in pots. And the size pot, believe it or not, is not that big. This is the size pot that I use in my own garden. And just to prove that I'm not lying, see this? This came out of my garden last fall. See these? They came out of my garden last fall. And to let you know how easy it is to continuously grow these things in pots, I want you to take a look. Look at this guy. I dug him up and then threw him in my plant room. I forgot he was there, and he's already sprouting this spring. This plant hasn't been touched by human hands until today. Look at this. And look, unless you think that's an anomaly, look at this. Calla lilies love being in pots. So what you then do after you plant them in the pot is you plant the pot in the ground and you bury it completely so you can't see the pot. So see, you can easily tell these guys have been in the ground, especially you can really see the mud on that one. Okay, to let you know what happens when you plant this bulb, this corm, in the ground, what happens is in the course of a year, 1 year, this bulb goes from looking like this to looking like this. These came out of this pot, which was planted last year. So the original bulb, corm, has pretty much disappeared. It was right in here. And all these individual bulblets, that means, if I can show you, that's a bulblet, that's a bulblet, that's a bulblet, that's a bulblet. All of these things then matured into these little bulblets, each of which will produce a healthy plant this season. That's how calla lilies grow. They grow by budding off of the original corm. Now, before we get into the actual planting, let me show you that each calla lily has an up and a down side. As you can see from here, most of the time on the bulb, you can see that there are concentric circles. We call that a bullseye. The bullseyes go up, and then the smooth surface is the bottom, and from there come hair-like roots. So this is the top, and it usually forms a bullseye, and this is the bottom. If you can't really tell, then plant it on its side, and it will do just as well. Now, remember, I think calla lilies, after 4,200 plantings and 16 years of doing container gardening, I think calla lilies belong in containers. So, first thing, what kind of soil are you going to put in this container? And we believe that you should mix your own soil and that the soil should contain no prepared soil mixes. So what you want to do is go to Home Depot or Lowe's, buy their cheapest soil. It's called topsoil. And then you are going to buy some peat moss, and then you're going to buy some dehydrated cow manure Or if you happen to be lucky enough to have your own compost pile, use the compost. And here's the mix. You use 60% or 6 parts topsoil, or if you're lucky to have it, crummy backyard soil. To those 6 parts, you add 2 parts of peat moss, and then you add 2 parts of dehydrated cow manure or compost. That's the optimum soil mix, and these little guys will say, yum, and they'll do this as a result in 1 year. 1 year. So what you then do, if you're going to plant it in a pot, I like this pot. It's actually a little bit bigger than a 6-inch pot. It's closer to a 7-inch diameter pot. This seems to be the ideal size for them. And so what you do is you just line the bottom of the pot with about 1 inch or 2 inches of soil, and then you put bottom side is the smooth side, bullseye side is the top side. You put that in the middle of the pot, and then you cover it to the top of the pot with soil to the top of the pot. And that's how you plant a calla lily. You don't need to do anything else. You don't even really need to fertilize to get this kind of productivity. So you need to think about what you want to do. If you're going to fertilize with a blossom booster fertilizer. That will get you more blossoms. You should know that each one of these babies is capable this year of producing a blossom. And let's talk a little bit about blossoms. Blossoms on a calla lily are not true blossoms. They are called spathes because they are a highly developed leaf. Unlike the rest of the leaves on the calla lily, this leaf changes color. And so it is called a spathe, and it is what we think of as the blossom on a calla lily. Now it takes a good 6 weeks for the calla lily to come out of the ground. But what you do is, when the danger of frost is completely gone, and I mean completely gone, you take the plants with the calla lilies, and you can start them early in your home if you would like to do that. That gives you a leg up once you get them outside. You take the entire pot, dig a hole, put the pot in the ground, and completely cover it with soil. And they just love being treated this way. And this is proof that they really do love being treated this way. Make sure that you have good drainage in the area where you plant them. They cannot tolerate sitting in moist areas for long periods of time. Though if you are planting them in the southern regions, hardiness zones 8, 9, 10, and 11, you can plant them near riverbanks or stream banks or areas that have constantly moist soil, but only if you are planting them in the ground. If you're planting them in pots, they'll tend to rot if they're planted in those conditions. So they can tolerate moisture, but they have to be directly in the ground. The other thing that they love in zones 6 and higher, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, they love partial shade. And in 8, 9, 10, and 11, they can actually tolerate full shade. So you should think about that if you have shady areas. They make a magnificent shade plant. Below zone 6, zones 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, they really do need full sun or nearly full sun in order to get the vivid color that they get in those spaces, which we think of as blossoms. So remember this, calla lilies like pots, whether you're planting them in the ground or you're keeping them on the deck. Calla lilies can tolerate moist soil if they're in the ground in the upper zones like 8, 9, 10, and 11. Calla lilies can be fed a diet of blossom booster fertilizer about every 3 weeks, but you do not have to do that in order to get good-sized blossoms that last a long time. And calla lilies love partial shade, and in the hottest zones in this country, they can actually tolerate full shade. So put them in pots. In the fall, when you bring the calla lily in, and you have to bring it in before it gets killed by frost. Let me repeat that. You have to bring these lilies in before they get covered by frost. If you don't do that, they will rot instantly. When they get hit by a frost, they're gone. So dig them up, bring them in. I take mine, I put them in the basement, except for these guys, which I forgot, and they were on a heated floor of my home. I put them in the basement, and I have a bookshelf for them. I don't touch them. I don't water them. I do nothing to them until I bring them out in the spring and plant them in my garden. I hope you've learned something about planting these wonderful plants, and I hope this inspires those of you who go, oh, they have to be dug up in the fall. Yes, they do, but dig the whole pot up. How long does that take? And try some this year. They come in magnificent colors. So thank you very much for being patient and listening to this video and my rants about how wonderful calla lilies do in pots. Well, I hope you enjoyed looking at these beautiful calla lilies, and I hope you'll come to our website, which is www.harvesting-history.com. On that website, you are going to find many more calla lilies, as well as many dahlias, many glads, and many spring bulbs that you might not have thought you should plant in your gardens. They'll give you wonderful ideas. More importantly, they'll give you wonderful histories of the heritage that we have as all Americans, our horticultural heritage. So please come, and please sign up for our newsletter. If you really relish learning about our horticultural heirloom history and our legacy, then sign up for our newsletter, because twice a week we will teach you all you would ever want to know about America's horticultural heritage. So thank you for listening to this video, and I wish you great gardening this spring.